Yeah. Yeah.
You know, sometimes, I mean, for me, nothing's a waste.
No.
Because even seeing what you're not can give you the opportunity to see what you are, because sometimes the more that you recognize what you aren't and you're seeing it as passing, somehow there's a sense of who you are. And
That's
it's
right.
not moving or changing. So even if you're in the midst of the worst of it, it's at some point, even if it's fleeting, that the recognition is fleeting. I kept coming back to the recognition that it's consciousness speaking to consciousness about consciousness.
Yeah.
And even just remembering that, even if it's just a memory and, you know, it's a concept, it brought an ease. It brought a sense of peace to me during the day. And for me, that was so much better than the constant obsessive thinking and the suffering that I was experiencing. It put a little break in that, just recognizing that, you know, and Bob says it all the time, investigate, look at this. And that's what really brought a huge shift for me when I really stopped living off the nectar of all these teachers' words and the books that I was reading. I just saturated myself with it because I was so desperate for some peace and to quiet this chattering mind. And I think when I took that initiative and really looked, you know, don't just take Bob's word for it, really look for yourself. And that's when it just snowballed. Things just started snowballing. And there was more of the position of awareness looking instead of me being a person trying to find awareness. It started shifting, very subtle and slow, but I can't say enough about that. Not meditation so much, just contemplation, just investigating what's happening right here and now, in any situation at any time. It doesn't have to be in a quiet place and everything has to be perfect. It could be anything at any time.
And here we spent another hour and a half talking about it. And don't we love it?
Doesn't the Tao say in the very first line, the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao? But then they spend, 88 verses or something explaining about the Tao that can't be spoken?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I speak about it so beautifully.
Yeah, I tell people it's like trying to put a box around the universe, because that's what words do. It's such a futile attempt to explain infinity with a finite word. It's just like a drop in the ocean. It doesn't even. That's why it can only be a pointer. It can't be the truth. It's just a pointer.
That's a great way to present it.
And that's the mystery, you know. And my understanding is it's just pure love and energy, just shaping us all this for no reason except that it can. It's boundless. It is. It's just boundless love and energy appearing as everything. And the mind wants to figure that out. It never will, because it's part of that appearance. But my experience is it's pure love. It's just loving to be.
Yeah, loving to be. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like that. Loving to be.
And it's non-conceptual. It's just pure isness. There's no time. There's no space. There's no thought about it. It just keeps expanding and expanding. There's just no end to it. Every time you think, God, it can't get any bigger than this, it gets bigger, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Kat says earlier about people expect birds to sing when they pass by. I had the opposite. I walked under a tree and a bird dropped something on my head. It wasn't from the singing end.
That is the sign. You are enlightened.
That's good luck.
How often does that happen to you? I'm going to stop walking under the trees with you.
They say if a bird shits on you, it's good luck, Bob.
Bird shit is a good luck.
What if it poops in your coffee? You're sitting there minding your own business and boop, right in your coffee. Ugh, I'm so glad I saw it. If I wasn't there,
Oh,
that would have. Oh, that would have been holy shit. All right. God.
It would have been. Holy shit.
But that's a bingo too.
Oh. Empty. It's actually love. There's you know, it's not blank. It's I think a lot of the things that I hear, it sounds like it's zippo, nothing, but there's this and it's not an experience, it's just all love, loving to be. So in that sense, it's not empty or blank.
No.
And it's love expressing as everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, love you can't see under a microscope, like you said. You know, you can't catch it, you can't hold on to it. It just is, and it's that aha moment. But for me, at the depth of that, what appears, but they're not separate either. You know, there's not awareness and there's not loving to be and. It's the same. I call it like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
There's the awareness and the loving to be. They're one and the same. They're never separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I say, it's absolute. There is absolutely no duality in non-duality.
Yeah.
Absolutely none whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. But when we talk about it, because we have to use words, it sounds like we're talking about things and blank or the empty void and, you know, no things. But words just are so, it boggles my mind how futile it almost seems to try to express this, because words are so limiting. And you know, Bob, you know, I just look at people like yourself and Kat that just have this beautiful gift to point to that so effortlessly and try and, you know, help people conceptually until that recognition arises for themselves. So many thanks to your beautiful gifts that consciousness is expressing as you two.
Go to yourself, Donna. You are absolutely gorgeous and brilliant. So effortlessly, and such an important aspect, so just flowing out of you, just gorgeous. It's such a gift to have you on board.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's there in every one of you.
Yeah. And what you say, Donna, oh gosh, it's just so, you're so right. One word, like, you know, how can you give that absolute in one single emptiness or no thing? It is impossible. They try to express it in trinities like omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, or Sat Chit Ananda, but it's still so limited. Even the Sat Chit Ananda, being, knowing, loving to be, is so limited. It just points aspects. But how can you even put in words? Love is a good word. Love in action, love unconditional in action, but it's still just, language is just so limited in trying to even point at that infinite, I don't know, absoluteness, lovability, the potence of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like, yeah.
But when that understanding comes, as you said, it's non-conceptual.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it just blows, the mind doesn't blow up, but it's like there's all these little holes in the mind. Mm. And that understanding just shines right through it. And it just, it's so bright that the mind just can't even compare. It just disappears in that. Mm. It just can't contain this. It just cannot. It's not possible. Mm. And if you feel like giving up and it's like, oh my God, you know, my mind and I can't get it and screw this and I'm done, and you slam your computer lid down, I've heard enough, no more books, stop already. That's, to me, that's such a blessing. You know, some people are like, I'm useless, I'm a failure, but what a great place to be. Like, finally, you're not listening to all that talk up there, you know? Like you said, Bob, it's not in the mind.
No.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Because it would be so limited if it was. It's just like, that would be boring.
And then you said bright, that's a good way of expressing it, self-shining.
Mm-hmm.
You put a polish on a bit of a dull brass or something, it'll shine, it'll be bright, shine. Light.
I mean, if you had to think about every little thing that's happening right now, you know, Bob, when you talk about the breathing and the digestion happening by itself, and if you were to take everything that the seeings, you know, everything that's appearing in the seeing and the hearing and the feeling, the mind couldn't grasp that. There's just no way. There's no way that you could know exactly each cell and each movement and each thing that's happening to make that what you're seeing happen and what you're hearing happen and what the body's the experiencing. It's so complex and it's so huge. You were in charge of every cell and of every movement. All of this is just happening. It's just a happening. And, so you can literally see when the mind tries to get on, it's like putting your finger in a fan blade. You know, it's like, ay, 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 ay. You know, every time you try to grasp what this is with the mind, it should be frustrating and it should irritate you because you can't. So it's so much better to just notice that it's all happening on its own. Don't try and understand it. And just recognize that you're the awareness of it. And that's plenty. That's plenty. Just stay in that simplicity. That's perfect place to start.
Gosh.
You know, when I went through a period of what I would call 4 years of the most delicious bliss. I was just happy, 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 and just saw love everywhere, and it was just growing exponentially, and just and then it went away, and oh my gosh, it was just so awful. And I got angry and bitter, and I wanted that love, and all these things, your love and your peace, and your all these things that teachers that I was listening to then were saying that's what you should be feeling, and if you're not, you're doing something wrong. Something's wrong with you. And then I came upon the teachings of non-duality, and the recognition came that awareness, that empty space like the sky that is aware, that bliss can come, anything can come and go to include that bliss. But I always remained that empty awareness of it all, the open, awareness. And it was, but it's never empty. The sky's never, that sky, that awareness is never truly empty. But it contains and expresses as everything, good and bad, blissful, not blissful. And that was such a relief, because I was in so much misery after having that joy leave, that it was, oh my gosh. But now it's I don't expect it. I don't have that expectation. I'm not looking for that, because I know that I'm that untouched infinite awareness, no matter what's coming and going. Even this body, the birth and death of this body won't touch it either.
And that's the freedom. That's the freedom, because chasing pleasure, and of course bliss or spiritual awakening or the love, it kind of feels like this is the much more noble pleasure, that now look, this is different, you gotta chase. No, if you are chasing, you straight away create separation, you create division. And there is you chasing it.
And here I am yelling at a God, you mother, I was so mad. Like, why did you take this from me, you cruel, just evil. This is just, how cruel can you be to just give this to me and take it, and you wave a carrot in my face, and now you're like, no, now you can't have it. I was so mad. Oh my gosh, I'm just glad I didn't hurt anybody in the process. I was just like, oh. But then what's that?
I'm glad you didn't hurt yourself, because I know people who were addicted to that sort of light energy, and when that one was gone, they were gone. They would check out.
Absolutely, and believe me, I wanted to check out often. I didn't want to kill myself, because I don't want to do, I don't like causing harm to myself or others, but I wanted off the planet. I wanted this to stop. because it just, what was the point? You know, what was, why am I here? If I can't have that, what's the point? You know, and then when the recognition of the awareness and that empty awareness where all of this is coming and going, that there was a peace that came with that. And it wasn't a conceptual peace, but it was a pure, simple joy and peace of being. And once that started to manifest more, and it seemed like a process, but once that seeing came that I was always that and I always will be that, then it really truly didn't matter what came and went in this play of duality.
Yeah, that's the freedom. When you stop changing place, it comes up as a byproduct.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Donna, can I just make a quick comment on something you said there? If I'm not mistaken, I believe Mother Teresa had a similar experience about God leaving her for a certain period of time. And there was this period of, well, you know, great sadness. So I just wanted to put that forward. You might like to look at that.
I have, and I've heard many, many, many other stories similar to mine.
Yeah.
And it used to really piss me off because the teachers would say, well, just let that go. That comes and goes too. And I'm like, because I'm not letting that go. That was juicy.
Yeah.
And that was the best, nothing compared to that experience on planet Earth. And I'm like, you'd be a fool to not want that. What person wouldn't want that at all times in their life? And just say, oh, yeah, go ahead and take it. I just thought, that's insane. And I wouldn't listen. I was like, nope, you're wrong. And then suddenly the recognition, you know, started coming, and it wasn't instant, but I kept getting glimpses, and that awareness. And then that finally was like, oh, that's what they meant. Even that comes and goes. But in the depth of that awareness is the love and the peace and the joy that surpasses even that. It's not the fireworks and the you know, this huge love. It's just this quiet, burning, steady sense that it always is and always will be.
So if I just can ask, that experience that you've just expanded on a little bit further, would you describe that as one of the runs in the ladder?
I'm sorry, that what?
Would you describe that experience that you have spoken about tonight as one of the runs in the ladder? You know, that wonderful feeling of ecstasy and for 4 years or so on and so on, and then it was taken away. Would you describe that as one of the rungs of the ladder to something else?
Rungs in the ladder.
Yeah. Sorry. It's a difference between our accents.
What's he saying?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can't really say, because each person's experiences and understandings that come to each person, it's so unique. So to try and follow in the footsteps or say it's like this or that, there's really no rules, because every teacher I've ever heard has a totally different story, but the pointing ends up at the same place, so to speak.
Okay.
It's always pointing at the same thing. So I wouldn't hold on to that, but for me, it was part of what we would call the process to find out I'm already what I'm looking for.
There is no self. In love, there is the object of worship and nothing else. So that selflessness, which is associated with love, that's why all the bhakti paths have such a popularity.
Because I remember I had a guru for a while, then I had these experiences and I couldn't talk to the guru about it, and then I met another guru, and I was very devoted. I loved bhakti. It was absolutely amazing. In fact, I felt that with the 12-step program. I gave my life to a higher power, and like you said, that I was so willing to give this self up because I couldn't manage my life, that's for sure. And that was through Al-Anon. So, but anyway, you know, that sense of devotion when I got involved in the non-duality pointings, and I was listening to a fellow named Muji, and I thought, oh, here's, you know, I'm familiar with this, the devotion and the bowing and kissing of feet and all that. And I thought I could do this. And I couldn't do it. It's like, oh my God, I just want to sit with the guy and have a beer, you know, and talk over a meal. Like, there's no way I could do that devotion thing again. It just wasn't coming up. And I was trying to make it happen and relive it because it was so wonderful when I had it before. And I thought that my path had shifted, my expression had shifted. And I, you know, 'cause it's hard to see that we're constantly changing and shifting, and you want to hold on to those things that worked. And it wasn't working for me anymore. I want to be able to sit with somebody that was accessible, that I could talk to immediately, face to face, you know, have a beer, you know, share a meal, and just be a person, be equals. I didn't want to do the worship thing anymore, but that's not to say that I didn't enjoy it thoroughly while it was happening.
Mm.
It was a great experience. I really enjoyed it very much. But then there just came a point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore.
Yeah, I get it. You can't make yourself believe in inequality and separation anymore, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I never had an experience of worshiping a man.
A fellow we're selling T-shirts and we're using quotes and stuff, and he said, "You know, I can't do this anymore because I feel guilty that I'm using phrases from holy people, and some of the diagrams that they're of Saint Francis and Jesus." And he says, I feel guilty using these holy scriptures and people to make a profit. And I said, I don't, you know. Because I don't look at anybody holier than me anymore. We're all the same. That's what I told him. And I go, and secondly, my brother's a priest, and he's got a gift shop in his church. And I'm telling you, they have more trinkets in there, and they don't feel guilty about making a profit. So I said, I still want my money. So he's donating his profit to charity. And and I said, I don't want it. I'm not on board with that.
No, I guess what I'm getting at here is for those of us that are not awake, how does that change when in particularly in regards to love here? How does that change when one does become?
Okay. Well, it was very clear to me when there was a disappearing of the body, mind, and universe, and all that was left was awareness and this loving energy. And the best way to describe this loving energy that's expressing as everything, expressing as the universe, our bodies, our thoughts, as everything, the dreaming, the seeing. The best word I could find was unconditional, meaning no conditions. So as body minds, we have conditions, concepts and definitions, shoulds and shouldn'ts, biases, concepts of what this love would look like. So we have rules and boundaries and limitations on that love. And it's very needy. So in the human realm, it's going to express conditionally. But because it's a dualistic world and our true nature is unconditional love, then anything can appear. There's not going to be the judgment that this is good or bad or right or wrong, or this is Hitler and this is Mother Teresa. It's all inclusive. There's nothing exclusive. So our nature is unconditional love, meaning anything and everything is possible, is happening, any potential. It's full potentiality and possibilities. No conditions, no restrictions whatsoever. So I like to use the word unconditional when I think of love, but as a human, our love is very conditional.
If I may ask, Donna, that's quite wonderful description. Does it have limits too?
In the duality and the dreaming, it can, because it can be anything.
And in the non-duality, the realm?
There's no conditions.
And no
but
limits?
That's your nature anyway. But yes, and ultimately that's your condition anyway, but it's appearing as conditional.
Yeah.
But you are unconditional love, but you're looking for this bliss and joy and whatever your concepts are about that love. It's usually our human ideas of that love. The mind won't understand because it's looking for, it thinks it's looking for unconditional love, but it's very conditional. So what you are is beyond the mind. Yep. It's beyond this expression, because you are that love expressing as everything. You are what you're looking for, but you're thinking it's somewhere else and it's something else. You have a concept about what it is, but you're already that.
Can I just ask you, did you have this experience yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and it's happening now, but our
Wow.
mind wants to
Wow.
say it's something else.
Look,
The story wants to say it's something else.
thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is the analogy about the little doll made of salt that wants to check the depth of the ocean. And it goes on a little rope, and every time it gets the deep in the ocean, a little bit of that salt of which it is made of dissolves. Every time it gets the taste of the ocean, there's less of the salty dough, until eventually there is nothing left, just the ocean.
I'm having problems with accepting that anger's okay. I've been brought up Catholic, and I've also dabbled in Buddhism. And in Buddhism, anger is one of the, is it 5 poisons or 3 poisons? I don't know. So there's a real sort of anti-anger thing with Buddhism. So it's kind of ingrained in me that anger is not a good thing, and I need to sort of get rid of it. And I can see
That's the paradox.
You know, there's a poem by Rumi. Did you ever hear read the poem "The Guest House" by Rumi? He said all these emotions, they're just tourists, they're just visitors. And I think anger is one of the things that people are most afraid of. If there's a fear when there's anger, because a lot of people get angry because they're scared. But there's other reasons, but just anger itself, people are afraid of that emotion. And I really liked what you said, Michelle, I think it is, that, you know, the anger didn't dissipate right away. And why should it just, you know, have a certain duration? Why can't it last? We want love to last and happiness to last. Why can't the anger be there for a little bit? But what's the beauty of what Kat's saying is that we write a narrative about it, and we're trying to make what's happening not happen anymore. But let it play out and watch how the mind is writing a story about what's happening. And you're already noticing that. Most people never notice that. They're in their thoughts, they're in their emotions. There's no sense of awareness of it. There's not that empty space, that impersonal awareness of what's happening. It becomes very personal because I'm angry and I have to stop it and I don't like it and this is my story about it. So if you take that personal part and notice how quickly the mind comes in, it's so fast, you don't even have a second, and claims it and says, I'm angry, I don't like it, and I did it, and it becomes personal now. That's the awareness is personal awareness. But what you truly are is the impersonal awareness, and the way to differentiate between the two is that the impersonal awareness is just, it doesn't have any differentiation of what's happening. It doesn't say, like Kat was saying, it's not anger, it's not all these labels in the story, it's just what's happening. Even your response, even the narration, even the claiming, it's watching all of that. There's a sense of allowance to what is. So then when that awareness becomes fixated or focused on the situation, it's still the same awareness, it's still what's happening, it's just it's a little more fixated. It's not that impersonal. It's just awareness being personal, but it's still not you. It's just claiming to be you. It's claiming that I, Michelle, am angry and I did it and I don't like it and I want to stop and this is what I'm going to do to make it stop. And then you live in this thought process, which is actually just, and thoughts are appearances that come and go. So you're living in this illusory world that you're creating about what's happening. And it's a personal world. It's one you're creating about what's happening. And I love the story, it's a short one, about a child who sees a bird for the first time. It doesn't know it's a bird, it doesn't even know what it is, but it's totally present to it. And then somebody comes over and says, hey, that's a bird. From the time you're born, this is that, this is this, this is that, this is this. And now that child doesn't live in what is anymore, it's living in its thoughts about what is. So from a very early age, we're taken from this, and now we're labeling and telling stories. So we're in this awareness of this thinking personal mind. And we're beating ourselves up for what is naturally happening because you're not creating the anger. Anger's arising. You're not creating the story. A narration is arising. It's all happening. But it's the beauty of these talks is that we get to see how we're making it personal and claiming it as a separate entity, that this is happening to me. And I'm responsible, and I can change it, and I made it happen, and I can let it go. So this what you were talking about earlier is the process that this mind has of claiming what is to be personal. And that's, to me, that's all in the mind. It's all a narration.
Yeah.
And your thoughts aren't true.
Yeah.
They're just an interpretation. And we're taking it to be true. And it's absolutely not. It's a futile attempt. It's a ridiculous attempt to explain what is. And we're taking it to be true, and we're taking it to be who we are. And you're noticing that. And the more you notice that, the less effect it's going to have, and the less claiming, the less the attention is going to go to that claiming, narrating mind and claiming this is me, the more you're going to relax back into that awareness that it's just this is happening, for good or bad. And don't even label it that.
Yeah. So you're not saying, you're saying don't sort of control it when it happens, because I really don't like it when it happens. It feels really
notice
unpleasant.
that it's not don't control, don't do that. There's no shoulds or shouldn't. It's what's happening. You're noticing there's this desire to control it. Take the I out of it. So if you have, and I love this example, if you have the word money, and you have the word house, and you have the word boyfriend or husband, and those are just words, right? They really don't mean much. But when you add the word my money, and my house, and my boyfriend or girlfriend, it changes the whole communication. So what we're saying is, it's not something that you can or can't do. It's a recognition that it's happening and rising spontaneously now. And then watch how the narration it's so fast. It's so fast. It's like, bam, that claiming and the storytelling about it. That's what you want to notice. And there's this releasing of that. And if you want to call it distancing from that narration into this openness and acceptance of what is, instead of this small contracted story about what is. It's huge. So you go from thinking about what's happening to the awareness of what's happening. But that includes the thinking. But you're not jumping on board and claiming the thinking as my thinking. So that thinking doesn't pull you in. You're not associated with that. That's not how you're living your life from this very small contracted place called thinking, which isn't really, that's just a tiny part of what's happening. But we've taken it to be everything and who we are. So we go from thinking about what's happening and living in this thought construct to the awareness of what's happening. It's a subtle thing, but it's huge. It's absolutely, so anger can be there, sadness, talking, narrating, but it's not you. It's just what's happening. And it's not just what's happening. It's amazing. It's happening.
I'd love to get to that point where I'm noticing it, like I'm aware of it, but there's no need to control it. There's an incredible need to control the process at the moment. So I can see it, and it doesn't feel good to be in that in the me space with the narrative that's causing upset. But I can see it, and I'm aware of it from a sort of a I guess detached sort of aspect. But there's that other layer of wanting to control it, which is just another aspect of the me, isn't it? Yeah.
It's awareness pretending to be you that wants to control and fix it. There's no you there at all. It's always the awareness. Awareness fixated on this, awareness fixated on thinking, awareness is claiming. So, and if you could start, like Bob says, that you're already that, then everything that follows is the awareness. There's never been you doing it. So if you could just maybe even, if you were going to do anything without changing anything, except maybe just a small perception that it's awareness is doing it, not, this is all awareness energy. There is no you to begin with. So if you can start with that and just notice how this, it's just a word. It's this I gets thrown on everything. Just notice that the I is being thrown on that. I mean, that I am, we've taken to be the body mind, and it's not. It's actually awareness energy being everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the awareness picking up the energy. It's awareness writing the story. It's awareness focused on saying that I, the thought I am, and taking itself to be the body mind. It's not you taking yourself to be a body mind. It's you're already that. So it has to be the awareness claiming itself to be the body mind, and the thought in claiming everything. And it's impersonal. So it's the awareness writing a personal story about what is, but it's part of the play. So it's not necessarily wrong. It's just a recognition that that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you are recognizing it. I hear it, every other word you say, you're recognizing it, but then you throw it away so fast. You're like, yeah, and then, So just keep noticing. The more I notice, it seems like Kat's beautiful story about the salty dog. It's the I that disappears, this concept of who you are, this belief, just starts deconstructing this story that you so carefully constructed about who you are, starts deconstructing, and it's just the natural process. It's frustrating, at least it was for me. It was harrowing. Oh my God, it was so traumatic, because I was not letting go of that. And but I wasn't doing that. I thought, wow. And I kept saying, hurry up, universe, get this thing going,
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I just want to be further along than I am,
But you can't make demands on the universe. It
No.
is what it is. And if it takes the rest of your life, it'll take the rest of your life. It'll take the next minute or whatever, but it doesn't take away the fact that you're already that and you never left.
Yeah. That's true. Thank you.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, about the only thing these meetings can really help, with is to deconstruct the story about the identity we've taken ourselves to be, because we're already that, so we're not creating anything or discovering anything new, because we're already that. So we have to look at the things that, and it's my favorite pointer is to start with the fact that you're already that, and everything else is a lie.
That's it.
I just wanted to comment on why isn't it happening now? She's waiting. Everybody's waiting for this event. And as Bob would say many times, I'll paraphrase it a little bit. If you were in charge, then what are you waiting for? Why are you waiting for this event and waiting to awaken? And as Bob said, he tried everything and nothing worked. And then suddenly there was an understanding and a seeing, which he didn't manifest either. So it's basically all appearing and disappearing on its own. That understanding arises on its own. So it's effortless in that sense. It's effortless because you're not doing it. You need do nothing. But if it's going to play out, if that intelligence energy is going to play out, that you're going to continue seeking and you're not going to have that understanding, then that's how it's going to play. But it's still that intelligence energy doing everything. So you're never really out of the moment. It's just playing out that I'm seeking in the moment. But you're still that. You're never not that, whether it's seeking or not seeking, the understanding's there or it's not there. But you can't make it happen because there's nobody there to make it happen. It's either supposedly going to come or not. So that's why Bob said all those years he tried and tried and nothing happened, because he wasn't doing it. It was the energy trying and trying and trying. And then that expression, the understanding and the seeing came that I'm not this body mind, and it's all the intelligence energy expressing as this. And it's this idea that we've been given, this belief that it's something else. So, and as Bob said, we're just removing the false so that we can see it's expressing, everything's expressing perfectly. Even if some thought comes, this isn't it. That's the intelligence energy too, expressing and saying, this isn't it. But it's expressing as a person saying, this isn't it. So, just wanted to share that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's what
Nice.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Happy.
Good. Me too. I'm just pulling over here. Yeah, I came to understand, or the understanding came that the mind or the voice doesn't really communicate, it narrates, and it basically is narrating after the fact.
Yeah.
So even though it's the narration is happening now, what happened is already past. So it's never, the voice that you hear in your mind is already speaking in the past or projecting into the future. So that narration is just a story that's added to what's happening.
Yeah.
Because for me, what's happening, it's really silent. It doesn't speak. The ego speaks first, as they say in A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
The ego, the me story speaks first, because awareness doesn't necessarily, it's silent. So all that narration, all that talking, it's just stories and labels that we're putting on everything. It's not really communicating. The mind communicates to the body, but it doesn't communicate. It can't communicate about what is. It narrates. And even the communication to the body is after the fact too, even though it's happening now in the immediacy. But yeah, I always like that the ego speaks first, because what you are is silent. It doesn't need to communicate. But there's the difference too. I mean, you need the functional, the practical communication, so you don't walk in front of a bus and you don't eat a pile of poop instead of, your spaghetti, or, so you need that to be able to differentiate. So that's functional. And I know the Aborigines say, you guys, you're all up here. You talk too much. He said that we function more in here intuitively, because it's a natural response to what's happening. There's really no thought to it. It's a reaction, a response to your environment. But the narration is just that unnecessary blah, blah, blah storytelling that just goes on and on. And to me, that's the cause of the suffering. And that's what they call the me, that the me story. It's added to everything else. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so true.
Anyone know Shakespeare at all? The one that tale told by an idiot. He's talking about that. Watch out for the narrative that's then. I'll have to get hold of that and learn that. Was a good one.
Yeah, Jane remembers that always. I don't remember that. I know Shakespeare in translation to Polish.
Don't you have that saying, there's nothing good or bad, only thinking makes it so? Isn't that one of your phrases?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And that thinking to me is the narration. It's the unnecessary chatter that just, and if your attention is there all the time, then that you start to think that's who you are. You think you're your thinking mind. You think you're the thinker, and that's who you are, as you so well said earlier. But it's not that. And you don't have to, fight it or let it go, or you just start to lose interest in it, because it's not true. It's just added software. It's just added jibber jab. You just start losing interest in it. It's like, heard that 1,000. You start noticing it's repetitive, it's boring, it's causing you chaos. I mean, why would you want to sign up for that? Why would you want to keep going back to that if you could just notice that it's really not your friend? So why would you want to support it or believe in it? But even that, that part is something that happens as well. The losing interest happens naturally, the noticing happens, and but when that looking arrives, when that desire to start looking at what's happening, that's really beautiful when that grace starts appearing for you.
And the other one is what?
blah, blah, blah storytelling that just goes on and on. And to me, that's the cause of the suffering. And that's what they call the me, you know, that the me story. It's added to everything else. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, so true.
Anyone know Shakespeare at all? The one, a tale told by an idiot. He talked about the, watch out for the narrative that's in. I'll have to get hold of that and learn. That was a good one.
Yeah, Jane remembers that
Yeah.
always. I don't remember that. I know Shakespeare in translation to Polish.
Don't you have that saying, there's nothing good or bad, only thinking makes it so? Isn't that what one of your phrases?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one.
Mm.
And that thinking to me is the narration. It's the unnecessary chatter that just, and if your attention is there all the time, then that you start to think that's who you are. You think you're your thinking mind. You think you're the thinker, and that's who you are, as you so well said earlier. But it's not that. And you don't have to, you know, fight it or let it go, or you just start to lose interest in it because you know it's not true. It's just added software. It's just added jibber jab. You just start losing interest in it. It's like, heard that 1,000. You know, you start noticing it's repetitive, it's boring, it's causing you chaos. I mean, why would you want to sign up for that? You know, why would you want to keep going back to that if you could just notice that it's really not your friend? You know, so why would you want to support it or believe in it? But even that, you know, that part is something that happens as well. The losing interest happens naturally, the noticing happens, and but when that looking arrives, when that desire to start looking at what's happening, that's really beautiful when that grace starts appearing for you.
And the other one is what Christ says, which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature? Can't make yourself an inch tall by thinking about it.
Yeah, I have a very dear friend back in the city I'm coming from, who is having such a persistent narrative, and she had enough of exposure to various spiritual schools of teachings and thoughts that she is listening for that still small voice of the heart. So now something happens, let's say she needs to make a choice. She needs to go to Warsaw or to Krakow, that's Polish cities, and she takes up the first one, the option A. And straight away, the narrative tells her, yes, now you're going to waste your life. This is the worst decision. Because of that, you're not going to meet your future husband, and you're not going to have a family. You're going to die lonely. So she just takes out of that train quickly, and she goes to the option B. And the narrative, of course, starts again. Yes, you didn't listen to your heart. You didn't listen to your intuition. Option A was the heart. Now is your head speaking. Now you are taking the wrong choice. And she is tormented. Few times I've seen her falling into a suicidal depression because she could not distinguish between those 2 voices, 3 voices, 4 voices, and she could not accept the fact that none of it was true. Oh, one must be my soul, one must be my heart, one must be my intuition. I keep telling her, look, heart doesn't need the words. Language comes from the head. Language comes from this network in the head responsible for using and understanding and processing words. Anything that you hear in words is going to be the narrative self. It's not going to be a truth, intuition, heart, or whatever, because those communicate in actions already present. Like Donna, you said, you know, when something spontaneously happens, that's the functioning. When something falls out of your mouth without being rehearsed, that's the functioning. That's the communication that is natural. But the narrative can really trap us into a multi-dimensional, multi-layered stories of what I am who is speaking. You know, this is me, your heart. This is me, your soul. This is your own deepest self. This is your own higher self or highest self. That is all nonsense. That is all just another trick of the mind to could keep you engaged, entertained, and distracted from what is.
It seems when you take that pause, if you can, take that pause in the narration, underlying that is the river flowing naturally. But the narration is like trying to build a dam and stop that flow and go a different direction or a split direction. But that river is still trying to flow. And when you can let go of that conflict, which is always the narration in the mind, it's just the story, should I, shouldn't I? You know, when that thinking turns into awareness, then there's just what's happening. So no matter what direction you go, if you go back to a relationship and you suffer again, or if you go, you leave, or you find another relationship, all that's happening in that awareness. So, well, no matter what direction, there's not that suffering mind saying you shouldn't have, it's just flowing. It's flowing to the relationship, it's flowing away from the relationship, but there's just not that internal conflict and suffering.
That's right.
You know, some of my friends will call and they'll say, people tell me to ask, who am I? Who am I? And I'll say, and what do you find? What's your answer? And they say, I don't find anything. And I'm like, perfect. That's the answer. Nothing. And from that point, then you can start looking at things spontaneously arising, that thinking just happen, because there's no location in nothingness. Yeah. And it's not a thing. It's not a thing. So that's the perfect answer when you're looking for the point of thinking and the point of feeling and the point of awareness, and your answer is nothing. I can't find anything. I'm like, that's perfect. Yeah. Stay there.
Stay there. Yes.
Yeah, and that nothing of asking, who am I? And there's no answer, there's no location. There's just the awareness. Mm-hmm. And then the thoughts are, you just be aware of everything without the labeling, without the commentary or the narrator. Just that self-aware knowing. That's it. It's just, you know, when I see people's minds just trying to get this and make it happen and see something or have an experience, and it's already happening. It's right. You are it. You just can't get away from it. It's right there. Mm-hmm. Nothing that you achieve. It's just a recognition that your awareness was on the thought process, on the thinking, the thinker, or the thinker, and the know and the knower. When you're the actual knowing, so it's just that subtle little shift. It's just so. It's just so subtle, but it's so easily missed.
Mm. The know and the knowledge, you say, are contained in the knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bob mentions it a lot, that people want a one-ended stick. You know, we want just the good stuff, and we don't realize it's everything. It's the frustration, it's the anger, it's the good, it's the joy, it's the happiness. It's not a one-ended stick. Mm. So I definitely, my envision of being a spiritual person and being conscious was, you know, I would be glowing with a halo and be happy all the time and at peace no matter what was happening. But there's a sense of peace no matter what's happening. That's the difference. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Especially when, like you said, Kat, with the recognition, when there's not that me there claiming it and saying I did it or trying to stop it or whatever. It just expresses itself and then it's gone, just like everything else. It doesn't, and I think it lingers when you try and keep saying it shouldn't be there or it should be there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as far as complying with what's going on in the world right now, there's so many strong opinions right now on all levels. Yes. On how things should be and how they shouldn't be. Yes. And more so than at any other time, and at least in my lifetime. You know, I'm seeing these diverse opposing situations and same situation, but opposing views. Yeah. And they're very strong. They're very, very strong. And, you know, as far as being, you know, I'm a little bit of a rebel when it comes to people telling me what to do, especially when I researched and feel differently. And that pertains to many things, but especially now, since it's an order, you know, it's something you have to do. But when you sit back and you look at your whole life has been doing things you were told to do. I mean, when have we ever really been free of authority? Some of the time we were born, we've had thoughts put in our heads and conditioning. And so, you know, why now is it a big deal? And, you know, we're fooling ourselves to think that we've, you know, been in charge all this time and we've been making the rules. And so I'm the kind of person where it's like, you know what, if this is a dream and the dream's saying to wear a mask, and if the dream says if you don't wear a mask, then the dream police are going to arrest you and take you to a dream jail and, you know, maybe get a dream fine. It's like, it's, you know, when you see it's a dream, you just don't take it so seriously, and complying isn't as big of a deal.
That's right.
You know, it's more that sense of peace and knowing this is just a dream, and it's consciousness doing all of this. It's consciousness being unconscious. It's consciousness being aware, and consciousness, if it wants to wake up in this person, it will. And if it doesn't want to wake up in that person, it won't. Yeah. So it's you know, so if you get angry and pissed off, it's like, you know, it just all passes. It's just part of the play.
I loved what you said, Donna. You know, it's such a heated time, and people tend to believe that the concepts that they have are better, more conscious, more enlightened concepts than the opposite group of people has. I just kind of loosely put some sort of a scarf on him, because the energy says that it's less effort and it's more peaceful to just go and do some pretended bullshit. I wear a mask upside down.
Yeah, it's like, who cares? Put a mask on.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah, and you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? You die? Well, hello. You know, that's not a big deal. You know, maybe to the person who thinks they're a body, it's a big deal. But when you know yourself to be that which can't die, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen to you? You're going to die? It's like, just another thing. But yeah, I just don't, you know, you just get to a point in these types of meetings where you come to the understanding that, you know, wearing a mask may be unhealthy. Maybe, you know, there's just so much going on. It's just be peaceful about it as best you can. And if you can't, then, you know, that's what's happening for you. But you can't demand things from the universe, because you just can't. It's going to do what it's going to do. To get humorous, like when you see the seriousness, you know, and you know, you lose interest, I think, in this type of understanding. You start losing interest in being interested in things that are really beyond your control. And, or even if there was something you could do, you just might not do it anymore. It's like, what, you know, you just start getting more relaxed about everything, and it's not that big a deal. And I'll admit, I was a little rebel at first about these masks and muttering under my breath and, but then, you know, I could lose my job. I don't want to lose my job right now. Really, I thought about it. It's like, I don't want to go through that hassle, you know, so I'll wear the mask. But it's just not that big of a deal. And in the bigger scheme of things, it's like, it's a little blip on the screen. It's not going to last forever. It's like, But then there's going to be those people who are going to, you know, start a parade and march and rebel and, you know, make a big deal about it. And, you know, it's funny to see all the different ways that this can express right now. There's just so many variations in this situation. And to me, it's a wonder. It's like, wow, you know, it's amazing. It's a show. It's like this huge carnival. And some are more ridiculous than others, and some are serious. And, you know, it's just like, wow, look at how this is playing out. I could never have thought of this in a billion years. It's like, what creativity right now, you know?
Yeah, beautifully said. Oh my gosh.
I was just laughing about the conversation about emotions. I was at a book study a couple years back, A Course in Miracles book study. And this lady would get so mad when I would talk. She hated it when I talked. And so she told me to shut up right in the middle of my talk. And I didn't talk very long, a minute or two. And right in the middle of it, she just said, you know, why don't you just shut up? And I looked at her and I go, wow. I go, you're rude. And everybody flipped out, because I didn't realize they were like, had me on some kind of pedestal where you don't have any feelings, you know, like you're supposed to be angelic and accept everything. And I said, well, I'm accepting how I feel. Yeah. I think that's rude. And it was so spontaneous on my part to say that to her. Some
Good.
people actually got up and left the meeting.
Oh.
They were so upset that I got upset, and I wasn't upset. I just said, you're really rude. And I mean, just all hell broke loose. And after that, after the meeting, some people were sitting and talking, and so I just was adding to the conversation, and this other guy, I wasn't talking to you, Donna. And I thought, wow. So I thought, I don't think I'm supposed to be here anymore.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I just thought, and they were taking the course literally, and they actually thought that they wanted to physically kill their brother, and just some of the things that they said in the course. And I mean, just everything they said, it was getting absurd, and it was time for me to move on. But it was just so refreshing to really know that accepting everything even means accepting your own reactions, and that, not that you're trying to, it's just what's happening. And the acceptance isn't something you do, it's just part of what is. So I remember I struggled for a long time to make myself accept things when I really didn't want to, and how freeing it was that the true acceptance is everything is as it is, and it came naturally. So I thought, I was chuckling listening to her, and I was so glad that you said upset is happening.
Yeah.
And not that she was upset, it was upsetting was arising. And I thought, yes. That's so true, because don't we have so many concepts of what awakening looks like, and how you should be, and you should be glowing with the halo, and you never get mad, and it's like, oh, I mean, I really thought that, because I went through 4 years of bliss where nothing did bother me. Everything just rolled off of me like water on a duck's back. And I was just watching life, thoughts arise. I was, just watching all this, but then that left, and I go, well, that came and went too. But what stayed was that awareness, that untouched awareness through the bliss, through the hell, through all of it. And thank goodness, thank goodness for that recognition rising, because I don't think this body would be here on this planet if I didn't have that recognition, because it was messing with my head to have 4 years of bliss, and then came out of nowhere, and it left, and God knows why, just like anything. And then Bob said, well, take a look at that, Donna. And I'm like, okay. What a concept,
So beautiful,
yeah.
Donna. Great to hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to hear. I've seen you speaking many times at Bob's talks.
Oh,
And I think I see you on Paul Hederman too. Are you on Paul's talks?
Occasionally. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I thought I recognized you on there. Yeah. Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
to
I've
meet,
always. Go ahead.
good to meet you, Donna.
Good to meet you too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing Bob said was something about I remember how he said it. He said that the awareness, when it's expressed through the mind, is the thought I am. Yeah. And so I'm thinking, yeah, when I'm talking to him, and he goes, but you're before that too. You're before that I am. And I'm like, there you go again, pulling the rug out from under me. Every time I think I got it, he's like, no. He left me with like nothing.
Getting there.
Can I add something to that? Over the years of being exposed to non-duality, I noticed that this mental concepts that Bob and Kat were talking about, and how things should look and should be, has greatly reduced and almost completely vanished. And when I would have emotions and feelings and thoughts, and these, I call them tsunamis when they were really bad. There was this filter that the emotions had to go through, and that, and I would try and minimize and rationalize what I was experiencing, whatever it was, physically, mentally, whatever. And that filter being gone, everything is so spontaneous. I do feel like a child, because everything just comes up, and there's there's not that filter that says you shouldn't do that. But then a memory will come and say, but if you do that, you might go to jail or lose your job. So there's a little rationalizing there, you know, to stay acceptable in my society. But inside, I feel the spontaneity of these emotions. They almost seem stronger in so many ways because they're not being modified in any way. They're not being filtered. And it's really beautiful because I don't have to say, well, this is why I'm mad or this is why I'm happy, because it changes all the time. You know, my story to that feeling changes all the time, but the feeling stays the same. So that was just something I wanted to bring up. They're just, like Bob and Kat said, they're just energy. And then we put the labels on it. So clear. So now when those feelings come, I'm not beating myself up. I'm not blaming somebody. I'm not judging. I'm not throwing all these stories to it. Just what's happening, you know, and it's okay. And then I laugh when I watch my mind try and write a story about that. And when I write that story, the story's what sticks in my head and like fuels that emotion to last longer than it needs to. But when the story's not there, like Bob and Kat said, they just come and go so fast. They don't hold, there's nothing for it to hold on to. So and it becomes laughable. Like, oh, there I go again. There's that anger coming. You know, you can kind of like clouds passing, you know.
Yeah. I'm finally talked about when you were at the, you know, talking on the Course of Miracles, and you shared an emotion. When I was in Bali, where Melinda was just then, when I was in Bali, no, it was in Bangkok, Thailand somewhere, and I went to see some Buddhist monks, and they were all sitting around bitching, and they had mobile phones, like car keys. Oh my God, you know, I'm like, they were real. They were real, you know, they were real people, you know, and I learned a lot from them. They were real. They said, I get shitty, I get lonely, I get angry. I'm like, oh my God, just amazing, just real people.
Yeah, and you're not doing it. It's just what's happening. That's the beauty of it. Nobody's actually doing it. It's just what's happening.
Yeah.
That's and my brother's a priest, and my sister just thinks he's like the right hand of God.
Yeah.
So we were at my mother's funeral, and my sister's like, everybody be quiet. Uncle or Father Mike's gonna say the blessings. And I'm sitting next to my brother, my Father Mike, and I'm like, you're the guy that I grew up with that sat on my face and farted, okay? And now he was a bully. And I'm chuckling, you know, looking at how my sister just views him as holy. And he goes, I'm going to bless the food. And I said, and I leaned over and I go, well, isn't it already blessed because God made it? And he goes, I'm adding an extra blessing. I thought that was so cute.
That was a good answer.
It was. I was like, that was good.
That was good.
But how we do revere people, you know, when we're already that too. So we always think it's everybody else has it and we don't. But that's
what I loved about
trap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
I'd have to agree with that because the feelings are so strong. I've been spending my whole life trying to keep them at bay. And with the gates wide open, they shocked me. I was actually frightened of my own feelings because they were so powerful to me. That just, and now they're not as scary at all. And it's kind of laughable, but certainly it was when you really let it fly and there's nothing stopping it, and there's no story. It was a little unsettling, and it felt like a free fall, like anything could happen at any time, and I was not prepared. But it was just so interesting. I do encounter that sometimes with people a lot of religious people that just are afraid of the duality, that life is the anger and it's the kindness. It is the joy, it's the depression, but it's also, you know, the happiness and the you know, just the sheer joy of living. So, you know, to deny one in favor of the other, it just felt so, I mean, I was so sensitive to that, you know, to see him watching just the one side. And I hadn't seen that in a long time, that, you know, we're always trying to find that one end of the stick. And to do that, you ignore the other end. And it doesn't function that way. And it felt so unnatural, and he felt so phony to me. And I've never been so keen to that in somebody before. And so it was really interesting to see how I could see him. And so we talked a little bit about that, you know, about embracing all of it and not just seeking out the one side. But we do that spiritually too. You know, we're looking for the bliss and the eternal happiness, and you know, the basic end of the conversation is that you're the peace, you're that awareness, you're the space for all of it to happen. You know, you're not looking for the human peace or the human type of love. You're looking for that which is beyond the human experiences and all the comings and goings. So it was really, you know, it was kind of refreshing to kind of tone it down a little bit to the daily living instead of always the non-duality talking. But then it ended up being non-duality talking anyway. Because I really haven't spoken with somebody that was so one-sided on life. So it was interesting. Life's never dull, I'll tell you. Never dull. Every time I think I'm going to have a boring day, it's like, wow. Now, oh, and I had somebody had written something about Nisargadatta and his looking at the I am. And, you know, in the human realm, the I am is this. You know, you can say that you exist. But I always love what my first talk with Bob said, but you're before the I am. I was like, oh, wow. It's just like, just blew me away. I love that. I'll never forget that first talk, you know, because I kept thinking, okay, focus on the I am. And that's a good basic primal thing to focus on, you know, when you're seeking and you're questioning. And then, of course, I'm talking to Bob about it. And then he goes, well, you're before the I am. What was the point? But I understand now. If you can get it down to just that little bit, you know, the very basic primordial fact that I exist, that I am. And that just gets rid of so much of the comings and goings of the phenomenal world, you know, just that basic breathing, you know, this everything's naturally happening. I'm here, I exist. And then something comes in and says, you're even before that. So thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people I know that are, you know, religious, and I come from an extremely religious family. I have a priest, a born-again Christian, a Baptist, real hardcore. And they have very black and white thinking. And, you know, one minute they're like, God loves everybody, but then you're going to hell if you don't believe in Jesus. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty extreme. You know, but the Christians did come up with the terms omniscience, omnipresent, and omnipotent. So, you know, and that means all there is God, basically, all knowing, all power, and everywhere. But they don't really, it's really hard to take those concepts and apply it. That means everything.
Yep.
But, you know, something in your mind says, no, God, you know, God wouldn't be doing this. You know, God's kind, God's forgiving, but yet the next moment, he's the only one that can judge you and send you, you know, to hell or punish you. And it's like, okay. It's really fascinating to listen to their reasoning. And, you know, I can't really condemn them because their devotion is so beautiful. I love their devotion to their religion, my family's devotion. It's really inspiring. And then to watch them struggle with these concepts and try and make sense of them and the different interpretations you'll get from the quotes from the Bible. But, you know, it all boils down, and so often when I run into extremely religious people, they'll say, you know, God did it, and I gave it to God, and God will take care of it. And I thought, isn't that the truth? You know, if you're going to take a concept or take this and call it God, isn't that the same thing that the non-dualists are saying? It's all God. You know, it'll happen when it happens. You're breathing on your own. You know, the thoughts are arising, and they say the same thing. God's doing it all. He will take me there. He helped me. He got rid of my addiction. He will help my child. I pray and give it to God. I give it to God. And I just thought, isn't that the same thing we're saying? And yet we're so quick to, you know, write them off and say
anything other than God. I just remember that strongly as a small child.
Well, some of my teachers, the awakened beings, let's just say, have children. I mean, and these children are living with this teaching that we're hearing today, this non-dual message, and they're not interested. So it's really not a matter of convincing anybody or believing or unbelieving. It's simply what's happening. And so, instead of trying to change my family, who I said are pretty hardcore, into believing and seeing what I see, that recognition will come on its own. But in the meantime, I have a great value and respect for what they're doing, because it sure beats, a lot of other things they could be doing. And like I said, I really admire their devotion and love to this God, this image they have. And I think a lot of us can say that we grew up religious, but not everybody's going to say this isn't satisfying me. They're not going to have that recognition, not going to have that desire to move a different direction or look a little deeper. It's just the way that it shows up for each of us uniquely. So in this, I was kind of pissed off. It's like, I think it would have been easier to be part of the norm, let's say the majority of the population or my family, and just stay with those beliefs, because they could, gosh, I could have had a family. I wouldn't have been weirdo. I wouldn't have been the black sheep. I could have fit in, and we could be all doing these things together and going to church, and but no, I had to be the seeker and suffer, and nothing was good enough, and not this, not that, and seek, and read and pray and meditate. And I'm like, oh, all this seeking and suffering. And, I was kind of have to admit, I was a little envious that they didn't have to work as hard as me. But, it wasn't my choice.
Well, that's
it wasn't my choice to be religious or a seeker.
That's all in the past. That's all in the past for you now anyway, isn't it?
Yes, but I was just trying to show the difference between the religious and, the seeker. And where there was a shift there. And of course, I'm still the black sheep, but I decided to call myself the white sheep of the family instead of the black sheep. So, because, I'm just glowing now. But it's really wonderful to sit no matter where I am, and to let things be as they are and not think or feel they should be any different. And that I can see, how this all plays out, and everybody's can't be any different than they are. And to see that it's all that oneness, that energy expressing as everything. So nobody has to be any different. And that's such a freedom. That is such a freedom for me, because, to have that in your face and be ostracized because you won't claim Jesus as your savior and you don't go to church from your own family. That was a struggle, but now it doesn't bother me when they criticize me or say anything. In fact, I see them kind of turning and embracing me a little bit now. And in fact, I even go to church now and then just to show my support. And when I sit in church and I hear a sermon like the sower and the seed, oh my gosh, it hits me so hard. It's so profound. These quotes that I used to be like, "Pah." Now I'm just like, holy cow, that is so profound. When you look at it from a non-dual stance, I'm like, wow, the sower and the seed. We don't know where our seed is going to be planted, if we're going to be in the dirt, or we're going to be we're going to be abused, sexually abused as a child, or sold for sex trafficking, or if we're going to be a lawyer or president. We have no idea where our seed's going to land and how our lives are going to unfold for us, if we're going to stay religious or become a seeker or have a recognition and awakening. And you hear these things that my brothers and sisters say, and I'm literally in awe of their beliefs. Now, of course, we're going to interpret it differently, and that's fine, because I've even been in church and we're all hearing the same sermon and everybody heard it differently. So it's just to have that freedom and acceptance and beauty that everything can happen just the way it is, and not to really want it any differently is, and even this fella who couldn't accept my complaining about my son, or my sharing my story about how abusive my son was towards me the other day. He couldn't accept that. And to see that he couldn't accept that, and that he just wanted to see the good. It was, it's just the way it played out for him. And it was nice to be able to actually see the full picture, instead of he should be doing that and he should be this, and getting angry at him and stuff. And I actually had compassion instead, you know, that this person was doing the best he could with what he knew, and that worked for him and for everybody. So, but to, you know, to have this newfound respect for religion. In fact, I've even found myself pulling out the Bible, and I've been posting quotes on my Facebook page. They're so beautiful, just so beautiful.
Well, it was Tukarama, I think it was, a great Indian saint. He was very devotional, and he said, by worshipping the form, by being devoted to the form, I attained the formals.
Mm-hmm.
So it took him home. And every path, as Douglas Harding used to say, every path will take you home. If you're sincere,
Yeah.
if you're sincere and earnest about it, you're really seeking. Walking the walk as well as talking the talk.
And the good news is, regardless what you believe you are, you're still already that.
Exactly. And, yeah, I really love the 12-step program too. I was in Al-Anon because I've been surrounded by addicts. You know, I was born into it. I married it. I gave birth to it. I mean, just surrounded by like hardcore addicts my entire life. So my mom said something about going to Al-Anon. I thought, oh, okay. That was the most beautiful program ever. You know, for beginner steps in the spiritual world. I had such an awakening. It was, you know, I mean, the first step admitted we were powerless. Like, how potent is that? That's such an amazing, and admitted we were powerless and that our lives would become unmanageable. And then the next 11 steps are trying to prove that to you. Like, here, let me show you how powerless you are. But, you know, if you just stuck with the first step, you'd be like, you're good to go. Yeah. But what a beautiful program. Like you said, Bob, there's just anything for good or bad, you know, is an opportunity. You know, it's not just the good stuff, and everything can show you that. And many people have had recognitions or realizations from extreme suffering and pain, but it's joy as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob used to say, it takes you where it takes you. Yeah. And in every single pattern, you have a uniquely different journey. Yeah.
That's why there's so many different messages. There'll never be, no teacher's going to have the exact same message, but it's all, of course, pointing to the same thing. You know, people are like, how did you awaken? And I go, that doesn't really matter, because you can sit and do everything Bob did, and doesn't mean it'll happen for you, you know, because that's what we do a lot of times when we follow teachers is, you know, they teach how it happened for them, basically, or at least the path that they were on, that this recognition suddenly appeared. But it's all grace. There's really, and believe me, Bob, I know you've said it, I've tried reading books, retreats, sat songs, meditation for years and years and years, and nothing really happened. But it could. It's not to say that it couldn't either. I kept trying to stop trying to understand this, and there's just this peace that came, this quietude that came, and and that was it. To me, it was like, well, isn't this what you wanted? You know, this peace of mind. And there it was, right there. And I think Bob used to say that Nisargadatta would pull the rug out from under him all the time. Anytime Bob threw a concept or a question, Nisargadatta would just throw it out the window. And Bob, I remember you saying you get so frustrated, and you kept going back. But that's the beauty of it. You know, the mind kind of gives up. Or there's a giving up of the mind. As I said, awareness gives you up.
Okay.
Staying in this body so that you can help us. I really appreciate it.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. Without you here, I'd definitely be lost. About 15 years ago, I had an experience of everything you're talking about.
Yes.
And it started from about 2 years of surrender and devotion to God.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful. I'd wake up happy, I'd go to bed happy. I didn't feel like it was my body. I felt like it was an instrument, and something was working through me. And when I'd talk to people, I never felt like it was me talking. I felt everything was spontaneous, that it was coming from a beautiful, loving place. Never planned anything, I just existed. I didn't have a teacher at the time. And the love just kept growing and growing, and the bliss and the beauty. I never wanted to leave, and it didn't matter where I was happy.
Yes.
I could be anywhere with anybody,
Yes.
in any situation, and I was just, even just sitting there, I was just happy, no matter
Yes.
what.
Yes.
As time went on, it was about 4 years that I had this experience, and I remember the years prior to that of the devotion and the love growing, but the 4 years are very distinct of the bliss.
Yes.
Towards the end of the 4 years, I started losing my mind, which is good. But I didn't have a teacher to tell me that that was good. It was scaring me.
Yes.
Because I'd be driving my car and I could not remember where I was going.
Yes.
I would pull over petrified, like, where am I? I didn't know where I came from, where I was going.
Yeah.
And towards the end of it, I actually felt I was going to leave my body and disappear into nothingness.
Yes.
And it scared me to death. I just felt like I got drop kicked out of an airplane without a parachute and landed on the ground, and I felt like God abandoned me.
Yes.
It's very painful because I didn't feel the bliss anymore and the peace in God. I really felt like I was his servant, like there was me and God, but yet there was a oneness too, because I wasn't really doing anything. And so for the last 12 years, I just feel like I've been in hell after being in heaven. And I've tried all these different teachers. I've had gurus, satsangs, darshans. They've had some beautiful, beautiful moments of light and just being a part of everything, but they didn't last. Nothing lasted. So the last 2 years, or year or so, I've saw you on the internet, and I've written to people about my experience, and nobody could help me. Because I just wanted to go back home. That was my home. It was so beautiful. But I've been listening to your YouTube videos the last year, and every question I had on why this experience was, to me, taken from me, have been answered.
Yes.
And this whole week, every time I had a question within 2 minutes, you answered it or somebody else asked it. And every time I turn around, there you are, and I got a hug already, and just, it's been wonderful. And my mind is so free. I felt so angry and so small. And so tight, and I was getting angrier and angrier because I knew what was there. And so this week has been wonderful, just burning my ego up and realizing that one of the ladies here said, I want to know Christ. I want to know the Christ in me. And she said, my heart's closed. I don't feel any love. And that was my sense, that I was still missing that. I understood the mind. I understood where it was coming from. But the love was not there yet. And you said, well, open it. Open your heart. Open, if you can close it, you can open it. So I went back to my room, and I read something from Papa G that said that you have a choice between heaven and hell, and the mind that's bound to the ego is hell, and the mind that's nowhere is heaven. And all I did was say yes. I just said, yes, I want that love. I just made the choice, yes, and I surrendered completely to it. It reminded me of my previous experience of that surrendering and that love. And then I came in the next day, and you said, well, your heart isn't open and it's not closed, that love isn't there, and it's not that it's not there or it's that it is there. It's neither. It's always there. And I just really wanted to thank you because it's brought me that peace. I feel like I still want to go. I'm not all the way home yet. There's a little part of me that's afraid of that, but at the same time, I want it so badly.
Yes.
And I feel like you're the only one that can do it. Yes. Either that, or I feel like the ego's telling me I have to take the time.
Yes, no, it's not like this. We spoke, I called one of the friends from Sahaja. She was here having this experience also. That I can't find my mind. I can't find my mind. I said, but it's answered prayers, no? It is, no? She said, yeah, but I can't think. I can't. Where is she? Yeah. I can't. I don't know what's going to happen next. I said, but who does? He said, but I really don't know. It's like, I said, but you relax, it's okay. And she needed to hear, it is okay. It's okay. At the moment it feels like a huge contrast because although you felt, I understand the self, I know the self, there was still some capacity there to doubt that. That in the actuality of the realization, when your person is thinning away, is some reaction, and I described it in this way, that it's like the mind is gone, but it is left a little portion of itself to say, oh, my mind is gone, to be afraid. You see? To see if that will catch you being the consciousness itself. And something was panicking, I said, no, it is okay. And as when this was explained, something came a bit more to, she said, I trust. And now she's bright again, and like this. I don't know, did your mind come back? So this thing is what is happening. And for everyone, at some point, you will feel, even you may have heard about it, even in the Christian tradition, you may have heard the term the dark night of the soul or something like that. No? And even Christ, it said on the cross, some of his last words, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why now? You understand? Yes. But yet there's sufficient consciousness following that, he says, into thy hand I commit my spirit, isn't it? He didn't leave it like that. So somehow these things are being acted out, and I'm sure that in this moment there is the deeper awareness that just is at rest in itself, yet these words are coming. Some human part is feeling the pain of separation or something like this, but yet a deeper knowing is still there, yes.
Absolutely.
Unshuffled.
Yes.
And for yourself, and I feel this is still a good thing to have happened. It was doing something that maybe to your conscious mind you're not sure about. You're not sure of yet. But this life of yours is a freedom life. This life of yours is freedom life. Because, I'm listening so keenly, because along the step, everything you're saying, I said, but it's identical with me, I know this. No? And this joy, you're cocooned in joy. Doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter upside down, inside, under the bed, on the road, in a car, at the railway station, everything, there's just this joy. It's just you are cocooned in this joy. And I said, oh, then what happened? I'm waiting for, and then what happened? You see? And you said, driving along the road one time, you could not somehow come to terms, what's happening, where am I? So some panic come. You see, and there wasn't something to just trust that okay, now I don't know what's happening, but somehow I will just stop. I'm still here, because that presence is still the presence. Something, maybe the mind is a bit lost or something, we don't know what's going to happen with this, but some trust anchors the consciousness.
I have trust now.
Yes.
at that time I didn't have a teacher, and
Yes, yes.
I didn't know what was going on, and now I feel like I almost lost my opportunity, and I have to start all over again,
No.
in a sense.
Yes,
But
no,
I
no.
don't feel that now.
Yes,
but
yes, yes.
all those years I did, and you've helped me realize that
Yes.
I don't have doubts about it at all. In
Yes.
fact, I remember Papa G saying that, just remove the doubt and what's left.
Yes.
And I am free.
Yes.
I am love.
Yes. Or observe the doubt as merely, a movement inside, because if as quickly as you recognize that you are the witness also of the doubt is saying what? Yes, you're not able to reach the self, which is the self which is looking at the doubt actually.
Mm-hmm.
Who grasped that? You have to try more hard to, you need to concentrate more. You are not from the right lineage and this kind of thing. But you the one who is watching it, is where the effort is being made to reach. But it just seems like it can't be that. You see.
When
This
you
is
had
when
that
you are
woman
nothing.
do the inquiry, the same woman that asked about seeing the Christ, you asked her to remove everything.
Yeah.
The doubt, the desire, the intention.
Yes.
And I did that. And that's where I felt home again.
Yes.
Right there. And
Yeah.
I thought, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And from there, that's where the joy came from, and the
Yes.
bliss. And it wasn't, I didn't have to do anything. It
Yes.
just came. And
Yes.
my mind has been completely quiet since then.
Yes.
I have no questions, really.
Yes.
The only one I had was, I want to fully burn everything. I still feel there's some lingering.
Yes.
And I feel in
Yes.
time it will
Yes.
be
Don't
dissolved,
itemize
but-
what is to be burnt. Just say whatever there is to be burnt, let it be
Exactly.
burnt.
Yeah.
You see, if there is something to be burnt, it will be burnt. But I'm not going to be concerned about that. To worry about that.
I feel like I came here for something, and I actually understand.
Yes.
I said I wanted to be that one that popped and
Yeah.
got it, and I really feel that's what happened for me.
Yes.
And it's definitely an awakening for me,
Yes.
and I really wanted to thank you for it too.
Yes. Yes.
I think the only expectation I have is when I go home, I'm hoping that my husband will be like your story and come running to me and kiss my feet.
Don't count on that. I hope you mean that playfully.
I do.
Yes, yes.
He did send me, I asked him if he wanted to come, and he said, no, you go, and then you come back and help me. And
This is very good.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Mhm.
That is beautiful. But don't hold any intention, take on no duty in it. Simply just continue just melting in grace, in the grace of your own being. Don't have any intention or hope or aspirations for I hope that this will happen or anything. Just leave everything now. Be entirely empty like this. Please follow like that. Be entirely empty. Then like this, everything, there's no time now. Yesterday, past, present, future, all of this, it just feels like they're just words, just concepts now. What is here is beyond all of them, beyond everything, you see, like that. Now, it takes something to trust what I'm speaking, but it won't take long to realize it. You see, just you're here. You don't know, you come to a point, I don't know anything at all. I don't know anything at all. I don't know anything. How comes I'm so happy? I don't know anything at all. How comes I'm so happy? I don't know anything at all. I don't know why I'm happy. I don't know how I'm happy. I don't know anything at all. I'm just here. You see? It feels like that. And in spite of this, things get done. Things happen. Things get done. But sometimes you don't know how it happened. How it happened that these things get done. You just, I can't describe how beautiful. How beautiful. No? I don't know anything at all. It's such a freedom. I don't know anything at all. I don't know anything. You know. Another moment you may find yourself talking as though you do know something, but it's just because it wants to express that moment like that. But underneath that you feel, I don't know anything, I am not anything. And how can I be so happy? I'm not anything at all. I don't have to pass any exams. I don't have to please God. I can't displease God. I don't know anything at all. Why are all these people coming to see me? I don't know anything at all. What they want from me, I don't know anything at all. There is a tremendous space in you. Then you find that this kind of phenomenal knowledge is like a trap, it's a limitation. If something needs to happen, in that moment it springs spontaneously into being. And when it has fulfilled its purpose, it again goes back into emptiness. You don't have to put it in your rucksack, in your briefcase or nothing. You don't have to file anything away. You don't know anything at all. I don't know anything at all. You see? And then I come to satsang like this, what are we going to talk about today? Well, it's always the same thing anyway. But how it's going to be expressed, I don't know, because I don't have an interest to speak about anything. I can't talk about football. I can if you try, I don't know. But there's no motivation for that. I come, I sit. If I had to think, okay, today I want to talk, it doesn't happen, I can't. So I don't do this, I can't. It's so wonderfully free. Of course, your mind will try a few shots. Look at you. Cuckoo. You don't know anything at all, where you're going in your life, you have no value. I mean, what is there to say about you? Nothing. Look at that. Shame on your family. Then are you strong enough to bear the assaults of your mind? It's going to come. But your joy so surpasses everything. There's a trust. It surpasses everything. You don't know anything at all. At one time, I never felt I could say this to any human being. I never felt I could say it like this. And look how many know. A growing club of nobodies. Because you could not say something like this, people say, you're crazy, man, what are you talking about? So you don't say anything. But then you will see people begin to understand. Yes. I used to say that every government should sponsor some of its citizens to come to satsang. But I think if they listen to this video, they won't be so sure. Does the nation want happy people or successful people? Visionaries? No, just a bunch of nobodies. They come happy. Hello, Mr. President. How are you? I love you.
Would it be okay if I got a hug from you?
Oh yes, please, come on. Yeah. has never gone out.
It sure felt like it. So awful.
Yes.
I don't believe it anymore.
Very good.
I know it can't go out. Thank you. You once said, you created me, now use me.
Yes.
And I am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. No. I have